Okay,
There we go.
got it. Oh, sorry. Hello, welcome. I completely forgot that was me this time. Right, okay. Sorry, we recorded another one earlier. And,
you forgot how this goes already?
Yeah, I forgot, I guess. Right, anyway. Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. It's episode 78. And as usual, I'm Mark and joined by my co-host Jasmine from Texas.
Hello.
And we also have Shawn Pryor.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight? Thank you for having me on the show, y'all.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I've been very see, and I'm tongue tied. I'm so excited. I can't talk. I can't talk. Ever since I got the direct message from Jasmine about asking if I wanted to be on the podcast, I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah,
I was so nervous. It took me like 3 days to send the message, man.
Like with me, it's always a thing of like, I always tell folks, it's like, listen, just send me a message. Now, I can't respond to everybody. I can't, because it's humanly impossible to respond to everybody. And social media is weird because social media is a fantastic thing. It's a great thing. It's a horrible thing, all the same time. But Jasmine, I know you. Like, I know you. You have contributed. You've contributed to many Kickstarters that I've done over the years, and so we follow each other on Twitter. So when you DM me, it's like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? I'm like, you supported me for the longest time. So like the least I can do is support y'all. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's always about giving back. You know what I mean? It's always about giving back and trying to support others. So, I'm more than appreciative. So thank you.
Well, cool. Well, this month we're sitting down with Shawn, virtually, of course. Shawn Pryor, he's got some creator-owned works, stuff like Cash and Carry, Ignition, Nat Turner's Rebellion, Force. He also has a lot of like Sports Illustrated for Kids kind of books. So I'm super excited to get into this and basically just welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you as well, Shawn. Like, honestly, Jasmine's been really excited about having you on, and but it's great to meet you. I know, like, Jasmine telling me, like, you guys have spoken and sort of kind of built up a bit of a relationship, like, previously on social media and stuff like that. So it's just amazing to have you on. Before we kick off with anything, it's like literally my opening question to everybody is what is your secret origin? And what I mean by that is, how did you, so like some people discover sports, how did you discover like comics and pop culture, not as a creator but as a fan? Like, how did you find that world?
So what happened was, I was like 3 years old, and at the age of 3 I was reading on a first grade level.
Wow.
At a very young age. So I would just pick up any book that was around the house and just start reading. And my mom and dad were like, okay, well, we need to do something about this, because I had burned through all of my children's books. Way back when, I'm showing my age. When I say this, I'm showing my age. But when I was very young, you would go to the grocery store and there would be a person selling encyclopedias. And so like this person with a table selling encyclopedias, and like, you sign up and send a check and you would get a new encyclopedia like every single month. Well, they also had something different as well. They also had a Disney's children's book series, where they were all storybooks based off of either Disney cartoons or retellings of old fairy tales with Disney characters. So my parents invested in that. And every month for like about 2 years, I got a book every month. Well, like I said before, like at the age of 3, like I burned through the first like 6 or 7, like just burn right through them, and anything I could find, just read. What's next? And so one day, my mom and dad, they picked me up over my grandma's house, and we got home. And I got home. I went in my room, and they came by with a stack of comic books, and they said, "Okay, here's the deal. I'm gonna give you the stack of comic books, and if you can tell me what actually happens in each of these books, we'll go get you some more." And I'm like, "Oh, a challenge. Oh, this is great. All right, let's go." And so it was Richie Rich. It was Richie Rich, Star Wars, Iron Man, and I think like a Superman comic. And that was like the first time I, like, outside of like seeing like Charlie Brown and Peanuts and like newspaper strips, it was a completely different world, completely different, full color on every page, and all this action and dialogue and like captions and word balloons and thought balloons and all this cool stuff. And like, I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And so, I finished them all like in a day or two. And like, I run to my mom, I'm like, when can we get more of these? Like, I told her everything about all of them. She's like, okay, no problem. Calm down. We're going to go to the convenience store, grocery store later this week, and we'll go get you some more. And that's where it started. And plus, television, grew up, watching Challenge of the Super Friends and all the different iterations of the Super Friends. And then the law, like the certain like FCC laws got lifted during the Reagan era, to where cartoons could sell product. So like you get like the Hasbro era of Transformers, G.I. Joe, and stuff like that. You also in the early 80s had a bunch of anime, being 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 redubbed and packaged and sent over to the United States for syndication. So I was watching, Voltron, both the Lion Force and the Vehicle Force, and then watching Tranzor Z, which was, I think, Mazinger Z overseas. And like that stuff like really blew my mind, because like I love mecha and robots, and like I was like, okay, like we can have this. And watching Battle of the Planets, aka Gatchaman, and now it's funny, there are some things that we all watch that we watched when we was kids, like, oh man, it's the greatest thing ever. And you go back and you watch it now and you're like, ooh, yes, that did not age well. Yes. But like some things you'll let slide, because like, you know what? No, this puts me in a good place, so I'm going to let it slide. Battle of the Planets is not one of those things. Like, I tried to rewatch Battle of the Planets like 2 weeks ago, and like, I'm like, why did Sandy Frank chop this up? Why do we have this American animation in the midst of this animation? Why do we have this like C-3PO R2-D2 robot, narrating the story for us? We don't need that. We got the team. We got they know what to do. Why? And like, I couldn't do it.
Sometimes it's hard to go back now that you have like a more critical eye. You look at stuff and you're like, how did this get made? This is trash.
Right. Yeah. And I was just like, yo, let me go ahead and get this Gatchaman box set out. We just go watch Gatchaman. We good. Let's go. But like the whole thing of, in all sincerity, for me, like a lot of it was like the dubbed anime, and a lot of the cartoons that had toy lines. That stuff was like really big. And even the stuff that didn't have toy lines, like Mighty Orbots, which only had one season, Saturday morning cartoons, like all that stuff, syndicated cartoons during the weekday, in the morning and in the afternoon. And also in the United States, there used to be something on USA Network called USA Cartoon Express.
Oh man. And I still remember the little jingle for the USA Cartoon Express.
Yes. It was the best, because like it would come on like in the morning, but it also come on in the evening from like either 5 to 7 or from 6 to 7. And so like, one day you might be watching some Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound. Next day you might be watching the Roman Holidays. The next day you might be watching Dynomutt. And it was just always this constant. It was just like all these old cartoons, but like they were new to me. And like, because that's when I learned, Hanna-Barbera took the Flintstones template and just redid it like 15 times. Because I was like, Roman Holidays. I was like, this is just the Flintstones in Greece. What? Mom, change the channel. Let's change the channel. Let's watch Sanford and Son. I don't want to watch this evening, or like they did the same with Scooby-Doo, so like you would have like Devlin, Clue Club, Funky Phantom, Captain Caveman, like everybody solving mysteries. I'm like, there should be no crime, because Hanna-Barbera made 30 cartoons of folks solving mysteries. Like Matlock didn't have anything on like all of the Hanna-Barbera mystery series. So yeah, but like that's the stuff that really got me into comics and pop culture, and the movies too. Like I was big Star Wars fan as a kid, still a big Star Wars fan now. Star Wars, Ghostbusters, anything science fiction based. You know, throw an animated movie in front of me as a child. Yes, I'm watching it, you know, no matter how bad it is. And I saw some bad ones.
Oh, they were rife back then. I mean, they were just everywhere.
Yes. Hey, if they can make a trading card, a coloring book, a toy, anything, put on that screen. Okay, that's fine. We're done here. All right, let's go. So yes, but those were some of the things. Yes.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I was going to say that a lot of those animations that you referred to, like I know, I can remember as a kid, like Captain Caveman and stuff like that. Just like, yeah, I remember those. I forget about them now as you move on, but like, yeah. So a lot of those things I remember watching myself. So it's just really interesting to hear.
Yeah, we went back. We watched the original He-Man series again recently, that was the film. Well, no, we watched the film, but we also watched a couple of episodes.
Oh yeah, the cartoon.
And it was kind of like, oh wow. The only good thing I remember was at the very end of the episode, they had those like special messages to like, hey kids, so today we talked about this, and what this really means is. It's like I don't remember messages at the cartoons after the cartoons were done when I was a kid.
Oh yeah. You always get the PSAs because, like, see, here's the educational part of the show. This is how they get the government off their butt. So it's like, oh, we learned a lesson today, and that lesson is blah blah blah. Like, so they would do that at, like, with GI Joe cartoons, they would have PSAs. He-Man would have PSAs. Not all of them, but like it was just enough to get the government off your ass. You know,
I didn't know that's what that was about.
Me neither.
Oh yeah, because see, because the thing is, you're also looking at, there are also parental groups that are like, okay, these are just 30-minute toy commercials. And so it's because, like, once those laws got lifted into where, yes, you could have a cartoon that literally is selling a toy. Because there's a period of time, like a lot of the cartoons were terrible, like in like the 60s and 70s. There were a lot of really bad cartoons. And I'm not saying because they couldn't sell toys is the reason why they were so bad, but they were just bad. You know, like the 80s changed television, definitely changed animation. But like in a lot of times you have parental groups saying, okay, this stuff is just violence for violence sake and just selling toys. So a way to curb that is, here's the PSA. And like with Filmation with He-Man, and almost every cartoon that they made, you know, there's a lot of animation shortcuts. Now, granted, they were one of the few studios that was actually in the United States. You know, because like a lot of animation studios, they would just send a majority of the work overseas back then. But if Filmation was all their work, I think with the exception of the time they worked on Zorro with the Toei company, that was like, I think the only time that they ever worked outside the United States. But everything they did was in-house in America. And so they would like do like a lot of shortcuts, and they would reuse footage. They would reuse like animation cells. So if you go back and watch a lot of those He-Man episodes and you see He-Man doing like this, you start to see where the familiar motions are being reused over and over again. You can see where they inverse a cell. So instead of He-Man punching to the right, he's punching to the left, but it's the same cell frames. You know, like they did a lot of that stuff, and they did a lot of shortcuts, not to waste time, but to fill time. When you would go to your next scene, you see like, okay, here's your background. And they would just basically take that background, take the camera, and slow pan across the entire background, because that's going to burn 15 to 20 seconds. Like,
you know, sometimes you go back and you watch this stuff and you wonder why older stuff seems so much slower. But I guess that makes sense. Because it was probably cheaper to do that than to actually animate something.
Do you know what I read? You know, you just said about the panning and the scene to waste 15 seconds. I remember reading, do you remember Prison Break, TV series Prison Break?
Yes.
So, you know, they must do this in other shows too, but I remember the creators of Prison Break saying, you know how every episode starts with previously on Prison Break, or previously on Lost, or previously on whatever it is you're watching. And that previously sometimes can be like 30 seconds or maybe 2 minutes or whatever it was. And they said that in Prison Break, if their episode was running short, that previously was a good way of filling time. So if they had like not a lot of, like, I don't know, say it was say they needed 43 minutes or whatever it was, plus commercials, and they only had 41 minutes of content, they knew that they then had to stick 2 minutes of previously at the front of the episode.
That's cheating. It's cheating.
But I remember the creators actually admitting that they did that. I remember reading an interview or somewhere, like I'm saying this with no actual evidence of this, but I do remember reading it, thinking, I wish I hadn't have read that. Like, I wish I didn't know. I wish I didn't know.
I wish I didn't know that you guys half-assed this.
Like, yeah, I think sometimes people should just not admit stuff. Like,
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing to admit, but I sometimes don't want to see behind the curtain all the time. So,
yeah, exactly. It just takes away some of that magic, right?
Yeah,
yes,
so.
it
You know, but talking about the splitting of the scenes or splicing other scenes in, we also rewatched the pilot of Power Rangers, and it so very clearly does that, where they got the scenes with the American kids, and then it's like all of the Rita Repulsa stuff is all spliced in from the Japanese cartoon, and it's just like, who thought that this was okay? Like,
yeah, well, and then that was the whole thing. Plus, like, it was the pilot, and with like a lot of Saban productions back in the day, the pilot was always the worst, like the absolute worst. Like, I love Power Rangers. I'm one of the biggest Power Ranger fans ever. And I remember I came into that series 2 weeks after it premiered. Mm-hmm. And like, it's so like the first like 2 or 3 weeks worth of episodes weren't the best. And so I came in, I'm like, okay, I was like, hey, this isn't bad. Okay, they're just mixing in, the stuff from Japan, and here's some American scenes. Okay, this is where you can tell where it splits up, but I'm good with it, because like that's the type of stuff that I like. I love Super Sentai. I ever since I was a kid, because I had an uncle in the Marines who would be overseas, and sometimes he'd bring home tapes, and, stuff like I had never seen before, and like. And so like Super Sentai was like one of those things. I was like, this is amazing. Like, how come we don't have this here? And then forward, like, a decade plus later, here's Power Rangers. But yeah, the pilot's rough. The pilot's rough. And so, but like, I was just so happy to see it that like, I was like, yeah, I can let this slide. Okay. Yeah. These are the American scenes. Okay. Here's the actual Japan footage. Okay. And then, yes, you can pick it out. You can pick it out easily. You can chop that up with like the easiness, but it was so fun to watch. I was like, yeah, I'll let all this slide. I will let it all slide.
That's the important part, right? Like, I'm willing to give you this much time, and I'm willing to forgive this much, but I'm going to keep going.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that you do, right, it's all kind of sports themed. So is that just sort of like your melding of your two passions together with your
Kind of like lately I've been writing a lot of sports stuff. I've been given like a lot of opportunities with a children's book company called Capstone, and they have like a bunch of sports lines. They have a line called Jake Maddox, and Jake Maddox, those are prose novellas for kids. And they talk about things like teamwork, friendship, overcoming obstacles and whatnot. And that was actually like the first paid gig I ever got, and that was just a few years ago. And I've been doing this for 14 years. And so to get like my first ever paid work for like a full book, I wrote a baseball book for them called Diamond Double Play, and like I was so happy, and I was just like, well, hey, I got to write a book for them. Well, that was cool. I don't know if this will ever happen again, but you know what? We wrote this one book. Okay. And it was so different from comics. And I was like, well, it was fun. And then 3 weeks later, they wrote me, like, an editor wrote me back. They're like, hey, you want to do some other stuff with us? And I was like, sure. And so then that led to other Jake Maddox books. And then that led to Sports Illustrated for kids. And then that led to children's books for the kids' sports stories line. Mm-hmm. But then it also then later led to me writing a graphic novel about the Nat Turner Rebellion. And then it led me to, oh, hey, we got like our own, like Capstone has like their own Goosebumps style line called Scary Graphics. So they're like, graphic novels, but they're scary stories. And they're like, would you like to write one? And I was like, yes. And they're like, can you do one about BMX racing? I'm like, well, sports again. Okay, yeah. Bring it to me. I'll take it. Because like, I never thought I'd be doing stuff like that. Yeah. And so, but like, I was tabling at a show, my local show, Lexington Comic and Toy Con, and I had all these books out. and my fiance was helping me set up the table, and she was like, Shawn, you got a lot of sports stuff. And I looked and I was just like, yeah, I do, don't I? You know, I do. And like, and the thing is that I feel, because like there's so much stuff I want to write. And then and I'm getting to that. I've always felt that like sports as like a genre in comics, graphic novels, novellas, and whatnot, or novels for that matter, it's something that hasn't been, I don't want to say touched, but we don't use it. You know,
Mhm.
you know, we don't use it because like a lot of people think it just won't sell.
Yeah,
When
there is a ton of sports anime though, and sports anime usually comes from manga. So
Yep.
if they're doing it over in Japan, I don't know why it's not picking up here.
Exactly. And so there's a market for it. You just have to make it available. And
Yep.
so like doing all this stuff with Capstone has given me the ability to do that. And not only that, but those books hit school libraries and public libraries. And I've done like virtual class visits with school kids grades, grades 1 through 8. Which has been fantastic. And the thing about kids, when you talk to these kids have no filter when it comes to asking questions. None. They will ask whatever they want to ask, and like it keeps you on your toes. I had talked to a batch of incoming 6th graders at a school not too far from here. And I got done with my presentation, and we did a couple activities, and I was like, okay, anybody have any questions? Student raised his hand. And he was like, yeah, what's your net worth?
What? Wait, was this a finance lecture? What?
No, that's no.
What was the age? What was the age? So what was the age?
So it's like 12, I think.
Yeah, they're probably like around 12 years old. Yes.
I'm impressed. Do you know what though? Like, I mean, nosiness aside, I'm impressed by the question. Like that 12-year-old would know or even think of what net worth is.
Yeah.
So
but that comes from like, this is the TikTok, YouTube generation.
Where everybody has their 15 minutes.
Yep. Everybody's got their 15 minutes. And also there are a decent number of people that are actually being able to monetize, their videos and make money. And so kids see that, kids see like the unboxing videos and how there are popular people that, very popular people that have built a career just from opening things and making money. And they see that. And so now they can be like, oh, hey, how much does this career pay? How much does this career pay? And so, but when he asked me that, I was like, excuse me? And so, I was like, well, I'm still new in the writing world, even though I've been doing this for a very long time, but I will say that this year has been good. I was like, it's not great, but I was like, it's been good. And I still have a full-time job. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you can't write, as a career and that be your only career. I was like, I'm a few years away from that, but right now I'm doing okay. And
but
so,
I'm not about to bust out no W-2s and show you and sit down and go through this stuff with you, man.
No, I ain't got time for that. Like, look, I owe taxes. Like, I ain't got time. But like, I do like writing sports stuff, but like, but I still like the desire to write science fiction is still there. The desire to write drama is still there. And like, those are things that I'm planning to get to very soon. My very first book deal, I got my very first book deal this year. And it's a graphic novel that I'm working on with artist Courtney Hahn, who I've known for over a decade, and they're immensely talented. And we're doing a basketball graphic novel called Fast Break, and it's for middle readers, and it's about a co-ed basketball league, and it's going to be a blast. It's an absolute blast. And once again, it's sports themed, but it's something nobody else is doing around here. Yeah. And I think it's going to be something that can be very special.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when you first posted about getting that book deal. So that's a big congratulations again on getting that one in the pipeline.
So yes, thank you. I still got, as of this recording, I still got to finish that manuscript. So I better get a move on with that. So,
yes.
Yeah.
You recently wrote an RPG for the band Angels and Airways. I'd just love to hear more about that as well.
Oh yeah. So what happened was there's a company here in Lexington called Mediocre Creative. And a friend,
That's not a
mutual-
very inspiring
I
title for
know,
a company.
I don't know. It's like, so when they said that, I was like, your name is what? Who?
What now?
But
I'm not sure about that name.
Yeah.
you know, but see, but it perks people's ears. They're
Yes.
like, huh?
Uh-huh.
You know, so like it does kind of work. I'm like, you know. But a mutual friend reached out to them and then reached out to me and said, well, you know, there's this company, they're looking for a writer right now, and for a project. And I was like, well, I'll take a phone call. It's no problem. So I talked with a gentleman who for Mediocre Creative, whose name is also Shawn. And he said, well, we work with another company and we make games. And what we do is we create a story. And after we create that story, we figure out, okay, how do we turn this into a game? And like, you know, so then we'll have a box, and it'll be full of like, you know, trinkets and like fake newspaper articles, magazine clipping, you know, newspaper clippings, magazine stuff, and, you know, like links to websites and all this other stuff. And so it's like a little game in the box. And I was like, well, that's really cool. And they were like, how would you feel about writing a story about aliens and stuff, and like, you know, and you know, extraterrestrials and people being kidnapped and all this other stuff, and or abducted. And I was like, oh, some X-Files stuff, really? I get to write an X-Files style story? Like, yeah. And this is before they could tell me who you know, who the band was. This is before they could tell me it was Angels and Airwaves. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm more than interested. And so a couple weeks later, they called me back and they were just like, yeah, you know, name your price. We need 10,000 words. It's for Angels and Airwaves. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, this is for Angels and Airwaves, like a real,
the band, yeah,
band, like a real ass band. And they're like, yeah, they were like, here are their concepts. Like they literally had a Dropbox full of concepts, and I was like, they were like, use these concepts to build this story, and I was just like, oh, this is real now. Oh, okay, let's go. You know, and so and so I wrote the story. And then from there, you know, like they would come back after we did the first draft. They would come back and say, hey, can you make a couple of changes? Made those changes. And then after that, they took that story and I said, just do whatever you want to do with it and to build that game. And the game came out a couple of weeks ago. And they sent me a box. They sent me like a box of them. And
wow.
Did you do an unboxing?
No, I didn't do an unboxing. No, I did not do an unboxing. But
not on TikTok.
No, not on TikTok. Not on the Instagram. No Instagram story. No Snapchats. Not yet. But like it's awesome. Like all these, like you have a box full of clues, and you're trying to figure out, like, you know, you're trying to figure out this mystery, and like in Angels and Airwaves even announced it during a concert in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was just like, wow. Like, you know, they actually announced this game. And so like that, and that's something I've never done before. I've never like written anything for a game company before. And like, it was a fantastic experience. And I hope to be able to do something like that again.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Like I love that. I love seeing your reaction to it all as well. Like, you know, like Angels and Airwaves, like really, like oh, for real, like, you know,
right.
And I can imagine though, like you know, I'm not a writer like yourself, but like I can imagine though, like the level, you know, because you said, you know, earlier, like your levels of success, you know, like full-time writer, I'm aware, you know, several stepping stones, you know, we know that getting into any industry writing, like of a creative type is difficult.
Yes.
There's entry level, there's different entry levels based on, you know, we know that there's nepotism, for instance, you know, gets you in a little bit higher. You know, if you're Steven Spielberg's son, you're probably going to go in a little bit higher, but obviously when you don't have that necessary, I don't know if he even has a son. I was just grabbing a name, but you know, there's different.
I mean, we know Clint Eastwood's son got a whole bunch of stuff that he might not have earned, but that's a whole different story.
But yeah, but there's different levels of entry. But it's just like really cool. Like I love seeing your excitement there. Like Angels and Airwaves, I love for real. Like, you know, and that must be like just so gratifying as a creator to be like, okay, like this is another stepping stone in building my career and my portfolio and stuff like that. Like, so just, yeah, congrats to you is what I'm saying. Like, you know,
thank you.
Before I move on from that question though, like I actually piqued my interest on the fact that you knew who they were, like your music interests. Like, what do you listen to?
I'll listen a little bit of everything. I listen to I'm still like a big fan of like 80s and 90s R&B, like because that's what I grew up with. But like, I'll still listen to like stuff like I actually a couple of weeks ago, my fiance and I, we went to, there's a folk band called Camp, CAAMP. My fiance loves them, and they were on tour, and they're like, listen, the only way you get in is if you're vaccinated. So so if you ain't vaccinated, you ain't coming up in here, and you better wear a mask too. And I was like, oh, okay, we can go. Yeah. And so we went, and like I've listened to a few of their albums, with my fiance and whatnot, and I was like, oh, this is okay, this is not bad. But listening to them live, completely different experience. Like it's so much more energy. You could feel it. And I was like, man, okay, they're better than I thought they were. But like as far as like rock goes, like there's Clutch. I just got into them like a couple years ago, once again, thanks to my fiance. And like I also still listen to like a lot of old school jazz, like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, even stuff like Herb Alpert. As a kid in the 80s, like Herb Alpert was that dude. And for me, like he's like one of those legends. Because like he also was able to cross over into R&B, but it didn't feel forced. So like so there's that. And Herbie Hancock. Let's see, because I'm listening to like a lot of old cats, but like as a matter of fact, I have my phone right here because now I can pull up. Who else have I been listening to lately? Let's see here. Give me one moment.
While you're looking for that, I know you watch anime because you recommended a couple to me, but have you ever seen an anime called Kids on the Slope?
No, I haven't. Is that any good?
It is about these teenagers in late 50s, early 60s Japan, but they are musicians and they are obsessed with American jazz.
Oh,
it is a fantastic anime, and the music is so great. The music is all done by like, at the time it was young up and coming Japanese artists, but they are obsessed with Coltrane. Coltrane is their favorite person, and it happens right around the time when John Coltrane dies. And when they find out that John Coltrane died, those kids are completely devastated. But it's a really sweet story. And it has fantastic music. So if you are into that kind of stuff, I would definitely check out Kids on the Slope.
Definitely, I would definitely do that. Okay, I got some more for you. Okay, so Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost album. I really like that. That's been really good. Nas dropped a new album. I haven't listened to Nas in probably like a decade, but like he dropped an album called King's Disease 2. Listen to that. That was pretty good. I've also listened to Foo Fighters dropped their Bee Gees album, the DGs, Hail Satin. And so like the first half, like they're covering like Bee Gees songs.
Wow, I did not know that.
It's fantastic. It's so good. It is so good. And then the second half is just Foo Fighters album, and it's like it's really really good. Like because Dave Grohl is doing the what's his name from the Bee Gees, the lead from the Bee Gees,
Barry Gibbs.
He's doing that Barry Gibb. He's doing that Barry Gibb voice, and it's really really good. And Mackenzie Thomas, I also listened to like DMX's last album, Exodus, and like just been listening to like a lot of Missy Elliott, because I love Missy, and like I just appreciate what she's done for music as a whole. So it's a pretty eclectic mix. It's an eclectic mix, and but there's even more. But like we could sit here for 3 hours while I just
Look, when you come to the UK and I buy you that beer, you can tell we can spend 3 hours like talking about our music and just don't get me started. I used to be, before COVID, I used to be a big live music fan. I'd go like fairly regularly, and kind of looking forward to just getting back out again. Probably more next year now. But, so like sort of segueing across actually into comics, but more now. How did you get into the industry, and how did you decide you wanted to write for a living?
Okay. So in 2007, I started to like learn how to write and create comics. Just like, as I was part of, used to be a forum board. There's this podcast still exists. It's called Comic Geek Speak. It's been around.
I know.
And way back when, way back when, they used to have a forum board, and that's where everybody could just talk and chat or whatever. But like, that's where like a lot of the people in comics, a lot of friends I made over the years, like I met them there in that forum board. And so I learned how to make comics through that forum board. I learned how to find artists through that forum board. And so like I made like a buddy cop comedy comic like in 2007, and I did that for like a couple of years. And then I said, you know what, I want to do my own version of GI Joe. So I did my take on GI Joe, but it was more fun, super kiddie, super fun. Did that for a few years, and like I just learned how to make comics the hard way and burned a lot of money. And I wish I could go back and be like, Shawn, don't do it this way. There's better ways to do it. Don't do it this way, But yeah, I did comics independently for like about 2.5, 3 years. And then from there, we had a group of friends who we were all doing our thing independently. But we felt that like our careers are just kind of like stalling a little bit. We're getting stagnant. And so we said, okay, well, what should we do about that? And so so one of our friends, David Watch, was like, well, maybe we should form a comic publisher. And, we can find talent and publish books and get them through Diamond Distribution and see what happens. And I said, okay, all right, that sounds good. All right, let's put it together. And so it's like me, Sean Gabarin, Dave DeWanch, Chad Ciccone, and a couple other people. And we formed Action Lab Entertainment. And I had 2 stints with that company. First stint from like late 2009 to about 2014, and then a second stint from 2017 to February 1st, 2020. Served a lot of roles for the company, including president, vice president, director of digital development, liaison, diamond liaison, you name it, I did it. The only thing I didn't do was build books and send them to the printer and build advertisements. But like in doing that, I kind of put my creative career to the side. Because I was just like, well, if I have to do all this, I can't do all this, plus have a full-time job, plus try to write at the same time, plus all the other responsibilities I had at that time. So I just said, you know what, let's just put our creative career to the side, and we're going to show everybody what we can do as an executive, and that will show these other publishers what I'm made of, and maybe possibly that gives me a shot over there. And none of that happened. Like none of that happened. If anything, I felt I became more invisible the harder I worked, which was just it was so strange. Mm-hmm. And so like, as thankful as I am that I learned a lot about the comic book business in my 2 stints there, at the same time, like I wish the business was better. Because it's also during a period of time where like I tried to explain this to like a friend of mine a few weeks ago. My first stint at Action Lab, when I was president for like a couple of years, like I was the only Black executive in comics, period. The only one. Mm-hmm. And so when you're going to these conventions and you're trying to talk to other publishers, other professionals, that are also executives or presidents or directors or editors and whatnot, they're all looking like, a lot of them would look at me as if I came from like Neptune, because I don't look like them. I'm younger than them. And like, I'm eager and I'm ready to go, but I don't fit their narrative. And so, trying to approach a lot of these folks, like the feedback that I would get was never really the most pleasant. Now I have met a lot of wonderful comics professionals, mm-hmm. And creators that I do call friends, and they really helped me make it through those storms, because there are many times I'm like, why am I here? Let's just quit. Let's just walk away from all this. We don't need to do this anymore. This is all a waste of time. It's just stressful. It's doing nothing for you except wearing you down and wearing down your soul. Why don't we just quit? But, I've made a lot of wonderful friends, from this, that just like taught me, it's like, look, you can do better. It's going to be okay. You're going to find your path and you'll make it through. And in a lot of ways they were right. The issue that I faced was that, like, the way the comics industry works is that it will tell you comics is the only thing that you should be doing. And if you're doing anything else, you're doing it wrong. And that's a lie. That is an absolute lie. I have the way I do things now, by doing work for hire for a company like Capstone, to now having a literary agent, which then opened up a door for me and Courtney to get a book deal for a graphic novel with a book company that has a graphic novel line. That opened up another door. To writing for game companies, to do stuff with a band like Angels and Airwaves, which is really major. To like just all types of things, like opening up myself to like all these other venues changed everything for me. And it doesn't mean I wasn't dedicated to comics. I was dedicated to comics from like 2007 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But like once I started to slowly start chipping at the wall around late 2018, that's when I started to learn. It's like, no, you can do whatever you want. Comics is always going to be here, and you can still make them, and I do, And so, I still do. I do Kickstarters and and I'm trying to find a home for Ignition and whatnot. And so, now like I'm at this point to where, yes, I can pitch projects for the book publishers that are looking for graphic novels and also looking for like YA prose and children's books. But I can also now, there are a few comic book publishers which I do trust. And I'm like, okay, hey, I can go pitch there and go pitch stuff that I feel works better in the comic book market as well, and in the trade market. So opening up and diversifying my palette is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And I wish, once again, it's the other thing, if I could go back in time and just tell myself that, yeah, it is what it is. I'm happy with where I'm at right now. I'm blessed, but it's a lesson well learned, and I try to tell everyone I know that. So for those that are in that creative field, I want them to know at an earlier age so they don't feel railroaded and blocked.
Mm-hmm. So when you left Action Lab versus the kind of the way that things are set up now with Action Lab, how different is that vision from when you started it to when you left the final time in 2020?
From when I started, from where it ended is it's like night and day, and there's no shade to whoever's left there. There's no shade, whatsoever. It's like, it was one of those things where there were things that I could do, but even I only had so much power, you know what I mean? And so like I just had like, but the thing is, like, I'm always eager, I'm always ready to make change. I'm always try to like do the best and help everyone in a lot of ways. I mean, I tried, and sometimes I was able to convince the higher ups, hey, we need to take a chance on this book. We need to take a chance on this. We need to do something different. So why don't we try to publish this? And, and so like, there were times that I was listened to, but there were other times where my word was overridden, and with all due respect, is because I did not have that power. And that's what it is. What it is. I know that a lot of folks are going through it with them right now. I've seen it. I've seen the links. I've seen the newspaper clip. I mean, the newspaper. I'm showing my age. I've seen the web clippings, and I've seen like the websites and the news articles and whatnot. And like, I hope that that the creators are able to get what they need, and everybody can I can never say amicable. See, I just said it, even though I hope everybody's able to work out what they need to get worked out. I just know during my time there, I sincerely tried to do my best to help as many people as I could, even during the days where that job was so thankless. I still wanted to make sure everybody got their best. And yes, sometimes I failed, and sometimes it was my fault, sometimes it wasn't, a lot of times it wasn't. But I really tried, and we really tried, all of us, myself, Dave, Sean Gabbard, Nicole DeAndrea, Danielle Davison, Jason Martin, all those cats. Like, we tried. And I just hope I hope all the best for everybody that's dealing with what they're dealing with right now. I wish them all the best. I do. But like I did my 2 stints, and I was ready to move on. And I think in the day, and like I was telling somebody on another podcast like a couple of months ago, it was to a point in January 2020. This is before the pandemic, before we knew what the pandemic was, when we just like, people getting sick, they dying. And like, and everybody's just like, what is going on here? I remember I came home from work. My 9 to 5, and I went to my office, and I was like, that's where I got to answer a couple Action Lab emails. And then after that, I'll go upstairs, I'll walk the dogs, and I'll cook dinner, and then I'll get back down here and work on Action Lab stuff. And I remember I sat down in my chair, this chair right now that I'm sitting in, and I tapped my keyboard to access my email, and I blacked out. I woke up many hours later. It was nighttime. I didn't know what the hell happened. And I was just like, yeah, that's a sign. I was like, that's a sign. I was like, I think it's time to walk away.
Yikes. That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And so I was like, yeah, it's time. And I just told him, I was like, look, I'm gone February 1st, 2020. I wish y'all the best. I can't do this anymore.
Not if it's going to sit there and make you pass out every time you think about responding to some emails. That's
Yeah. So
I actually found your work through Action Lab, because one of the books that you guys had was Princeless.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked Princeless. And then I, through the booth that Action Lab had at New York Comic Con, I think it was 2014 when I went,
yes.
I found Molly Danger, and then I found, I think it was either Jamal Eigel or Jeremy had recommended your books too. So that's how I found out about all of you guys.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, like there's a bunch of people. There were a bunch of people. We really tried to do something there, and we had some successes, and but it's just like I said, it's just time to move on, and moving forward has honestly been, ever since that, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like the opportunities that have been put in front of me ever since then are amazing, and I'm happy. Like I just finished a show the other day. There's a book festival here in Kentucky, the Kentucky Book Festival, and and it was held at Joseph Beth Booksellers, and it's the first time they ever had it like at an actual bookstore. And this bookstore is really big. It's very large. Multiple floors. They also have like a little venue outside as well. And so you have like, hundreds of authors, but a lot of Kentucky authors, but you also have like a lot of national authors as well from across the country. And so, your table, with another author, like right by you, and you got your books and they have their books, and there's just people coming up and they're like, hey, I want a copy of this. Will you sign it for me? And you just make it out to whoever, you sign it, and you talk about the book, whatever, and boom, there you go. And like, I never signed that many books before, ever, and to see like kids' eyes light up when they see like, oh, look, cool, it's a book about soccer, or like, or hey, this is, a scary story. How scary is it? It's not too scary, and stuff like that. And they ask you about your other projects and stuff. And then later that day, I was on a panel to talk about the Nat Turner Rebellion graphic novel. And that panel was led by a professor who wrote a book about the Nat Turner Rebellion, but it was it was about the Black women who helped build that rebellion in Southampton, Virginia.
That's cool.
So now you have like two different like perspectives of the Nat Turner Rebellion. Like, now granted, with mine, I'm writing a graphic novel where I have like about 30 something pages to break down one of the most like graphic moments in United States history to 8 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah. That ain't easy.
No, it's not. So we got to talk about that for like an hour, and it was so cool. So, I like where things are going now. I do, and I feel very good about my future. I do.
Awesome.
I was gonna say thanks for sharing that story of Action Labs, and I wanted to say like how important it was that you recognized when that computer incident, like people experience those things in different manners, like almost like trying to think of the words, like kind of almost like an epiphany, whether it's blacking out or whether it's just a realization, because sometimes people get stuck in something and the hole is so big, like it's so difficult to come out of, because some, a lot of it's like you're so busy, like you spend so much time being, in speech arts busy, and you're too busy to get out of the hole. Like, so I just was going to say, like, I think that was important that you recognize that, like, and people don't really do enough for their mental health. And so I think that's good that you sort of mentioned that. We don't talk about mental health too much on this podcast. We do get serious, like, but we also have a laugh, but like, I didn't black out, but I did recognize something myself in my 9 to 5 that I changed in the last 6 weeks, because I felt like I was in a busy hole, and about 6 weeks ago I changed basically the role I was doing, so I just could see like that, and other people listening will probably feel like the same, like, oh, I'm in a hole. So if you are, hear Shawn's story, is what I'm saying. So thanks for sharing that. I think it was an important thing to share.
Gotta listen to your body, because sometimes if you don't listen to your body, or you ignore it for too long, your body is finally going to take control and be like, look, man, I've been trying to tell you.
Oh yeah. And when it does, it's going to get you too, shoot, like I went to the gym today for like the first time in a long time. Because I need to do that. Like, and that's the thing. Mental health and physical health are very important. Like that, especially mental. Lord, like, whew, I can't lie. Like, okay, here's a perfect example. Like, I go to therapy. Okay, like, again, and the thing is that, like, because I'm able to afford it because of my 9 to 5, because that gives me health care. Because there's been a lot of people who are like, oh, you're writing all these books, that's incredible, that's awesome, when is that going to be your full-time job? When are you going to leave your job? And I'm like, not for a long
Listen, it's
time,
hard
buddy.
to leave benefits. People don't understand that. It is hard to leave benefits.
They don't understand that. And I'm just like, look, I can't leave this job yet. I was like, this job has healthcare. It's got good healthcare. Okay. So guess what? I'm going to write after work. Okay. I'm going to write on my lunch break sometimes. But I was like, but like, no, like, your mental health is important. And like, therapy has been a blessing for me. I've been able to learn a lot about myself over like these last few years, and so, no, like, taking care of yourself is important. And like, with the amount of workload that I've had since the pandemic started, like, so I was talking, like, my fiance was talking to me the other day, and she was just like, well, you got to start exercising again. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So let's get back on it. And we went to the gym today, and Lord knows I did not want to be there. I did not. And I saw that stair machine, and I was just like, well, it's been a while. So how about
my apologies in advance to my quads.
My quads, they still screaming. Still. Whew, man, they still screaming, hollering, mad at me, angry. So yeah, no, but you're right. You're right. Your mental health and your well-being mean a lot. You got to take care of them, because if you don't, who's going to take care of them for you?
Right. Yeah. You can't write any books if you're dead.
Exactly.
No, exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say, while we've been talking, you mentioned a couple of times about the question I wanted to ask you about, like, about a literary agent and stepping away. So, like, from comics. So, not stepping away from comics, but you've basically started to make a transition. Sorry, hold on a minute. Basically from comics into books. That's what I'm struggling to get my words out there. So I just kind of wanted to know what it's been like to move away into, or not move away from comics, but move it into books.
Oh yeah, like it had been so long since I had written prose. Like, I hadn't written prose since college.
Yeah,
and so for me, it was a thing of when I wrote that first Jake Maddox book, the baseball book for them, Diamond Double Play. I was like, okay, they're gonna let me write this book. Okay, it's for this grade level. Okay. Oh shit. Okay, what are we doing? So I was like, okay, well, we gotta look at how this is done. So I bought another Jake Maddox baseball book, because they'll have like multiple baseball, football, basketball books and whatnot. And I had bought one of the baseball books, and I just started to read it. And I was like, okay, these are how they construct their sentences. This is how they construct their chapters. Okay, there are X amount of chapters, X amount of words per chapter. Okay, you got 5,000 words. So we're looking at about maybe 8 or 9 chapters tops. Make sure, like, when you're doing this, your word level has to stay at a certain point, because remember your audience.
Mhm.
And see, that was the thing that like I had to learn, just like with comics. I had to learn when I'm doing a comic, who's my audience. Yes, I'm doing this for me because I want to share the story with the world. But like if somebody asks, well, who's the audience for this?
Yeah, but yeah, Cash and Carry can't have like Matlock dialogue.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It can't be Perry Mason up
Yes.
in here, you know what I mean? So and so like I was like, okay, know your audience. I was like, you got to know your audience. So I read the book like from like beginning to end like 3 straight times, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And then I just started writing the story. And so I sent it out to the editor, and the editor came back and he's like, okay, we needed to like bring some of these words down a bit. We have to bring them down. Like these words are too large. Kids won't understand these. So let's bring it down and fix a couple of things here, and you're good. Tweak the ending a little bit, and you're good. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was like, that wasn't so bad. And so it was just learning how to function on that level. Doesn't mean that like it's like I'm going, it's beneath me, because it's not. It's just learning that level. Just like when I was writing kids children's storybooks for the kids sports stories line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, okay, now the sentences have to be shorter. The words have to be smaller. We got to get to the point. We got 500 words to do this in. We got to tell this story, which technically has like 3 or 4 chapters. We got 500 words. So you got to be quick, concise, to the point.
Mm-hmm.
And that took me a while to learn too. And then like earlier this year, Capstone offered me a what they call a high-low reader series. And what they mean by that is that these are the types of books where it's kids of all ages. You're trying to get them to enjoy reading. So like, it's short sentences. You're not using the most eloquent, largest words on the table, but it just helps them to quickly learn and quickly read. And it also has spot illustrations. And so they were like, well, we want to do a superhero series. And like, but it has to involve gaming. And I was like, oh, okay. So you mean like, so I was like, you mean like a superhero, like a teenage superhero that like, he has like some type of special power, and like he fights villains like in the video game universe and on Earth. And they were like, yeah, that'd be great. And so that's how like the Gamer came to be. And like in those series of books, like I wrote 4 of those, and they're illustrated by Francesca Ficarilli. Those come out in January. And once again, it was a thing of, you're going to have multiple chapters, but you got 500 words, get to the point, don't over elaborate. And then this is where I learned a thing called ATOS, ATOS. It's like a reading level a reading meter.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be like, okay, for this series, the ATOS level can't go above 3.0. If it goes above 3.0, you got to bring it down. And so they're like, here's a website, take your text file, drop it in that website. It will analyze the text and then tell you what your score is. So wow. I remember the first.
That's really cool.
First book yeah, it's awesome. Like I was just like, I didn't even know this thing existed. Apparently, it's been around forever. Had no idea. And so when I wrote my first Gamer book, I was like, well, I just finished it. Let me go test. Let me go run it through the ATOS system. ATOS was like 4.5. Do it again. And I was like, okay, all right. Okay. So now I'm.
But does it point out like where you've gone wrong though? Like, does it point out?
Oh no.
Okay.
No. It's like, no, you're going to figure it out yourself. Yeah. Then you're going to come back and we'll try this again. So now I'm going through the text. I'm just like, okay, that word's too big. Let's use a different word instead of that. Okay, the sentence structure is too long here. Let's chop this up. Okay, and so now I'm learning. And I go back and it's like, okay, it's a 3.1. And I'm like, all right, I can go send that to the editor because the editor will let 3.1 slide, So, and then like they do their edits. They run it through the system. They bring it back to me. They say, make these changes and boom, it's done. And I'm actually doing a second series of Gamer books with Capstone and Francesca Ficarilli. And as of this recording, by the time this recording actually makes the airwaves, I should have finished the second set of books for that too. But they're a lot of fun, and like it's really cool because like it was my way of being able to do a Super Sentai slash Metal Heroes style superhero, and it's a 13-year-old black kid by the name of Tyler,
Mhm.
who has like this like wrist device, and he'll say like gamer transform, and like he turns and like he's got this really cool outfit that has the aesthetics of a Nintendo Switch. It's got those Nintendo Switch colors, so you got that red,
Oh,
the
wow.
black lining, and you know, with a little bit of blue and stuff like that. And he's got like a power sword, and he's got a cool car, and it's just a lot of fun. It's just fun stories, and
But it also
and
sounds
I
like
just
you're
can't.
having fun with them.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. And plus, Francesca's artwork is so cool. It is so cool, and to be able to do something like that has been a blast. And the fact that they're letting me do a second wave of them is even better. So I can't wait for people to see them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's really cool. So since you're talking about fast cars and fun things, this is one of my copies of Ignition. So you do have a Kickstarter, Ignition
Yeah.
number 3, which is going to be like your final entry for the Ignition series. So give us all of the details on what you got going on with the Ignition Kickstarter.
Okay, here's the deal. Okay, if you go to Kickstarter, you can go type Ignition in the search header, or I believe if you go to ignitioncomic.com, it'll shoot you straight to the Kickstarter. And this is for the 3rd issue of the miniseries. This is the final issue. It's 56 pages. This is the end. We're going to find out whether disgruntled and former race car driver Jamel Reed is going to be able to transport a gentleman by the name of Spencer Avery and his mysterious cargo to Las Vegas before time is up. And right now they're being chased by bad guys. You're going to find, you still need to find out where Spencer Avery comes from and what's so important about this package that he's carrying. And it's going to be an action-packed blast. And it's being able to work with Kelly Guillory, Jenna Lynn Wright, and now Christina Pogue, who is the colorist for issue 3. She's assisting on colors. It's just been so awesome because I've never done anything like this before. Like the whole thing about Ignition was one of the reasons why Ignition was made. This was during a period of time where there used to be when she was on ESPN, Jamel Hill.
Mhm.
When Jamel Hill was on ESPN, and they wrongfully ran her out.
Yep, they did it dirty.
They did her dirty, and ESPN was on this really strange shift at the time. Personally, they're still on a strange shift, but that's whole another story for another time. Anyway, but like when they ran her out, like I was just thinking about, well, how about if we take that story, that what's going on with that, can we turn that into something else? So I said, well, you know what? Let's use racing. Let's use racing. I was like, Shawn, what are the things that you enjoy? Oh, I like racing. Do I watch it a lot? No, but I still like it. I like Fast and Furious movies. And I also like the Transporter. So I was like, why don't we take that and mesh that all together and let's make something wild? I was like, okay, cool, bet. So I got with Jenna Lynn Wright, and I was like, let's make this story together. And so you have a race car driver by the name of Jamel Reed. And Jamel Reed wins like the biggest race of her career. And in the biggest moment of her life, at that moment, the biggest moment of her life, once she receives that trophy, everything falls apart.
Yep. Which is my favorite scene in this entire series so far, by the way. It really is.
Thank you. And so she loses, she gets kicked out of the racing league. She's banned for life. Like she loses all of her endorsement deals. Her husband divorces her, gets custody of their child. Just like all these bad things happen. And so in order to make ends meet, yeah, she has like this, she teaches at this little, mechanical school, like, mechanical racing school. Is very small, size of a garage essentially. But in order to make ends meet, she does transporter jobs on the low. And she ends up taking a job from a gentleman by the name of Spencer Avery, who has a client by the name of Mr. Wolf, who lives out in Las Vegas, that needs, a package taken from Dayton, Ohio to Las Vegas.
It's a long drive.
Within X amount of hours, non-stop. We ain't got time to stop. We got to go. And so, so Jamel's like, well, you can just fly. It's just easier. And Spencer's like, nope, can't fly. Can't do that. Can't do it. Sorry, got to drive. And he just puts like a wad of money right in Jamel's face. Now, granted, also right now at this time, Jamel needs money to pay her lawyer so she can fight for the custody of her son. So it's just like, well, I need this money. I don't know what I'm getting into, but let's go. And that's when things really pick up and just go haywire. And I love the story. I love working with this team. Kelly is awesome. I've been wanting to work with Kelly Guillory. I've been wanting to work with Kelly Guillory for years. And we found a project I think that was perfect for all of us. And her artwork is awesome. And being able to also do like a bunch of variant covers with like all types of cool artists, all doing their own take. And like with the final issue, with the variant covers, I said, well, let's do something different. Let's do, homage covers and tribute covers. So, the covers that have nothing to do with the story at all, but like, oh, here's a tribute to, I always forget this gentleman's name. I always say incorrectly, like Taiko Sato, the creator of Go-Go 13. And it's a Go-Go 13 cover essentially with the characters from Ignition. Or
okay, that's the cover I want.
Yes. There's a Speed Racer cover as well. Chris Jones did this like a Speed Racer tribute cover with the two main characters from Ignition. Ebony Metal did the Taiko Sato Go-Go 13 cover. Jamie Noguchi did like a Super Sentai Tokusatsu tribute cover. And then Kelly Guillory did this gorgeous cover, which we just call Queen. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And but we also have covers by Ray Anthony Height, Martheus Wade. We also have reprints for issues 1 and 2 because you can still get the first 2 issues. They're reprints. And so covers from Melissa Capriglione and Alexander Reese. Like it's great. Like I've had so much fun putting all this together. Yes, the fulfillment. Whew, that's a lot, but it's worth it. And in trying to raise $8,000 for this big issue, I really hope that we can hit our goal. And I'm going to be stressing until about December 12th. And it's going to be worth it, though.
I'm excited to see how the story ends. Not gonna lie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, I want everybody to be able to see how this story ends. So I need this fully funded, So yes, and if we hit our goal, fantastic. And if we surpass and get to like about $11,000, everybody that orders a print copy will also receive the Art of Ignition book, which will be basically a I guess I'm bad at math. 20, 50, like about 100 something page book, and it's just all the penciled and ink pages of Ignition. It's just the raw art. That's it.
Wow.
That's cool.
So if we make 11,000, everybody that ordered a print copy is going to get that too. So
we'll definitely include the link too when we post this up in our show notes.
What's the final date for the Kickstarter? Sorry, when does it finish?
The final date will be December the 12th. December 12th. Yes. So we're going to be doing this in about 30. Like the overall thing is like 30 days. So it started on November 12th. It will end on December 12th. Be Christmas time. I'll be watching some Christmas specials and like just looking at the page, like refreshing. Like, come on, ho.
Let's go. That's definitely got to be a new saying. Ho ho. Many meanings. Anyway.
Yes.
Like you mentioned a minute ago about Transporter, but it's got me curious about inspirations in terms of racing, whether it's films or comics. Have you got any sort of racing? I know you said Transporter, but is there anything else that inspires sort of your racing stories?
Yeah. Actually,
I was gonna say even real life, like if this sort of taken.
Oh yeah, like when I was a kid, when I was little. Didn't understand NASCAR, didn't understand anything about it. I just loved the way the cars looked. Like design was something as a child that always fascinated me. Like, for example, like there's a Millennium Falcon, right above one of my display shelves. Like I became infatuated as a kid with design and shape. Like I was like, oh, this is just so cool. And as a kid, we were just like, because we didn't have cable. When I was like 3, 4, I was between the ages of like 3 through 6, we did not have cable TV. So you had a television, wherever channels worked, that's what you got. And on a Saturday, cartoons were over. It was too cold to go outside. I could either go in my room and read some books or listen to the radio or play with my toys, or I could just watch whatever Dad's watching. And he had it on NASCAR. And there was a race car, it was like blue and red race car with like a STP logo. And it was a guy by the name of Richard Petty. And I thought that was the coolest car I had ever seen in my entire life. I was like, that car. I was like, Dad. I was like, I want that car. Where can we get that car? Can we get that car? When can we get that car? And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so like that Richard Petty racing car was like a really big inspiration for me, race wise. But yeah, like the Transporter, Jason Statham has made some wild movies over his career. But like movies like the Transporter and the Transporter 2 are so ridiculous in a good way. In a good way. Like those were movies that were made like in the late 90s, early 2000s that honestly have the vibe of 80s action movies.
Just with better cars.
Yes, because they do ridiculous things movies would do in the 80s. Like in Transporter 2, like he jumps the car, is able to flip it over midair and have a crane yank a bomb off the bottom of the car and then turn the car back over midair and make it land. And everybody's like, oh, that's cool.
Without
that's
breaking
nice.
a single window.
Exactly. Or axle.
Yes, no axles were broken either.
No. And then like in number 2, he beat up somebody, beat the living daylights out of somebody. But his suit shirt got all tore up or tattered and dirty. He walked back to his car, popped his trunk, like hit a switch. Oh, look, here's a clean shirt. Wait a minute. Now hold on. How did you know? Like just that type of ridiculous stuff. I've always enjoyed, and he drove the hell out of a car in the Transporter.
Oh yeah.
As well. So
I really feel like those movies bumped Audi up on everyone's list. Well, because I think the first one might have been BMW, but the second film was definitely Audi.
Yes.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah,
you're making me want to go and rewatch those movies. It's been so long. I've never seen the fourth one, but I love those first 3. To be honest with you, Jason Statham, I know he's not like Oscar movie type level.
He doesn't need to be.
But that's not where he plays. Like
yes.
He plays in I love pretty much. I don't think I've seen a film that I've disliked. I think he does carry a film well. So.
Oh yeah, he did a movie. I want to say like maybe it was like 2013, 2012, called Safe. Where
with Chris Evans.
Chris Evans is in Safe.
Wow. Wait,
no. I have to go back and look and see who all was in Safe. But like he was protecting like this little girl because he used to be a cop, and like a bunch of other police officers were trying to kill this young girl that was connected to a case. And so it's like it's his job to keep this girl safe. And it's just him beating people's asses for damn near 2 hours. There's a scene where like he goes into this restaurant and he's starting like he's beating folks up and he starts running and jumps and literally like midair elbows a table. The table like pops up and like knocks somebody the hell out. I'm just like, we got to rewind that. I want to see that.
I haven't actually seen Safe. I just had a quick look. I haven't seen it. Chris Evans isn't in it.
No, I'm thinking of a different movie with Chris Evans and Kim Basinger and Jason Statham, where Jason Statham is a bad guy.
But Anson Mount is in it though, who I also love. But yeah, no, he's not in it, unfortunately. But there's another Jason Statham film which is Wild, Crank. Like, honestly,
yes, that movie is so ridiculous.
I know. It's honestly one of the most nut job movies.
Yes.
For them. I know we've completely gone out of this, but
Oh, it's okay.
Let's round it back. Let's round it back to look. Go and support the Kickstarter. You know, that's all I've got to say. Really, go and pledge your week's salary or month's salary, and like, you know, let's get that book funded.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries at all. Just want to say thanks for your time. I really appreciate you jumping on for like this month's conversation. It's been really great. I've actually just really enjoyed listening to you. You're so full of enthusiasm. Like, honestly, we should bottle that stuff up. So, okay, so for our next episode, we'll be reviewing Halloween in December by reviewing the latest Ghostbusters entry, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
And don't forget, we did start a second podcast series where we tackle some of the most essential graphic novels of all time. Our 12th Late to the Party Book Club episode was Fables Volume 1. And for our next book club, we are going to be returning to the world of Scott Pilgrim and reviewing Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life Volume 2.
Where can people find you online, Shawn? Like, where are you on like social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shawn SHAWN RPRYOR at Shawn R Pryor on Twitter, on Instagram at the Shawn P Show. And also my website is ShawnPryor.com, and it will and on that website it will tell you, you click on books and show you all the books I've either written or collaborated on, or what's coming soon. So those are the best places to find me.
There is I actually did have a question I wanted to ask you before I let you go. In terms of recommendations, we always ask people, like, so for instance, we run this monthly book club, like we just talked about Scott Pilgrim and Fables and stuff like that, and we've gone through things like V for Vendetta and all that kind of thing. Is there anything that you feel is like an essential graphic novel, like, so for instance, that you might recommend to people?
Black Sad. Black Sad is a
I think that's on our list.
It's a detective noir, but like they use it's anthropomorphic.
It's a cat, right?
Yeah, anthropomorphic animals. Yes, a cat, but like it's anthropomorphic. So like, you know, they're like humans, you know, walking on 2 feet and whatnot. But like it's very like Philip Marlowe detective type stuff, and it's really cool. It's very serious. Like I never thought I would see something like that talks about race the way that series does. You know, because like you're using animals, but yet there's a very like black and white conversation that is told in some of those Black Sad stories. There was also many years later, because I think they had like three separate graphic novels, but years later there was actual Black Sad game. I actually got a copy. I got a digital copy on my PS4. It's a really cool mystery, and it's really awesome. It's fantastic. But yeah, Black Sad. As a matter of fact, because I'm so bad with creators' names, I'm actually gonna go look real quick and see the creators of Black Sad, because I don't want to mess this up. Let's see here. 1 second. And Black Sad is a noir comic series created by Spanish authors Juan Diaz Gonzalez and Juanjo Guardino, and because they're French comics that Dark Horse has later translated and released here in the States. And there are like a couple of volumes. Let's see, as a matter of fact, let's see. Yeah, there are a few volumes. There's like Dark Horse has 3 volumes, and so they're fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. I can't say. I've lost my words. I just love it. You should check it out.
It's so good. It makes you speechless.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Well, if we end up putting that one in our book club, we might be hitting you up again to come back and talk about that one with us.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice. Nice.
And so to round it back to social media, we are just Geeks and Niche everywhere. So please give us a follow, etc., on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast: Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere. So please give us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening. And thank you very much, Shawn, for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much, Shawn. This was a lot of fun.
You are more than welcome. Thank you. I appreciate y'all's time. I can't say thanks enough. And And even like the little homie Winston that I have right here, little homie Winston says thank you as well. So yeah, so thank you, y'all. I appreciate y'all.
No
All right.
worries.
Good journey.
Good journey. Have a good